Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. We'll just wait for a few more people to come online before we get started. We're just waiting for a few more people to come on, but it's great to see some familiar names here. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Amu Ahmed. I know you're always on time. It's great. I did a kind of a pilot video a little bit earlier, and I mentioned there are a few things that I'm probably going to repeat, so I apologize if you're listening to it a couple of times now or hearing me say this a couple of times. It is my first time doing a live broadcast, so please be forgiving. I also am not an Arabic speaker, and so I won't be able to respond if you're writing in Arabic. But I do have somebody who'll be summarizing and translating some of it for me, so don't let that stop you. But just know I'm not being rude if I don't respond to your comments. I just can't understand them. Okay. Okay. I think we'll be getting ready to start in a moment. I'm just waiting on my signal. I hope you all got some shahi. Got yourselves ready. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. It's a pleasure to be here. All right, we're good to go. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Manal Yunus, or Manal Abdul Salam Nur Ahmed Yunus, because as diverse as we are, Eritreans everywhere, I know that there's already people thinking, I wonder who her dad is. So I have to let you know my proper name, my full name. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a good and a bad feeling when I'm speaking at or talking to people about things like this. Obviously, it's really horrible because the reason that we've come together to create these videos and to have these conversations, and the reason that we acknowledge April 14th is because there is something very devastating happening in our country, and that is something devastating that's been happening for a long time. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit more about later on, and I'm also going to be sharing some poetry. But it's also positive because I feel that it's such an incredible thing that a community like ours that is scattered all over the world can come together to work together, to create campaigns and to try to make a difference for our people, especially the ones back home who can't do anything to make a difference, who can't even speak. So Jazakallah khair for having me here today. I've been watching some of the other videos, and I feel honored to be one of the people that have been asked to come and speak today. And I'm a little bit speechless. Give me a second, I need to take a drink. I hope you all got your shahi. I warned you in the 5-minute interval. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am, unlike many of the people that you've already heard speaking, I'm not a journalist or a scholar or somebody who has been studying or active in this area for many years. I'm only 23 years old, and I am a writer. I'm a poet, a storyteller. And the reason that I am a storyteller is actually got a lot to do with where I'm from. So, I was 3 years old when we left Eritrea and we came to Australia. Myself and my brother and my sister, older brother and sister. My father was already here. And when we came, I lost so much of my language. But for the first year or so, when I did have Tigrinya, everybody who was speaking to me would say that, I was always going to be somebody who talks a lot. I was always telling stories, and when I was growing up, I was listening to stories. I was listening to all of our elders speak. I was listening to stories from my father, from all of the people in my community here in Adelaide. I'm in Australia, by the way, in case you didn't pick up the accent. And it was from them that I learned so much about the country that is the most important place in my life, has the most important place in my heart. And so, as I was growing up, it was probably when I was a teenager that I started to really look and try to understand what was happening within Eritrea. Because, you hear these stories, but you hear the good and the bad, and then you don't understand why you can't go back there, but you know that you can't, and you know that your family goes through things, but you also know that your family loves the country so much. And so it was when I was a teenager that I was really trying to work out what it all meant. So I started to do my own research. I started trying to learn my language again. I do speak a little bit of Tigrinya. I'll try to throw some in every now and then. But when you learn, when you want to understand the bigger picture and you learn more about the place, you're just as much as you are excited and happy and joyful, it can be a little bit overwhelming. It can be very saddening. And I have, ever since I was a teenager, learning about this, I've tried to be active as much as possible. And being so young and living in Australia, especially in Adelaide, where there isn't much political action happening around Eritrea, where our community is quite small, I felt powerless a lot of the time. So one way that I did feel that I could contribute was to start to write down more of our stories. So as a writer, as a poet, I write about being Eritrean. I write about our history in an artistic way. And now, alhamdulillah, I travel around the country and I share my poetry in schools. I share it in corporate places. And when I do, I always talk about Eritrea. I make people guess where I'm from, and when they can't, I draw a map most of the time, and I'll tell them this is where Eritrea is, this is its history, this is what's happening, and this is why we can't go back. And so many times, for the people who I'm speaking to, this is the first time that they've heard of Eritrea. And it's so important that we raise awareness about our country, because if we don't, who can we reach out to help us? We are a small population all around the world, and we are powerful, but we're even more powerful if we can have people on our side to help us overcome what's going on. So that's a little bit about how I contribute to the cause. So I'm going to share one of those poems with you now. This poem is called Forgotten Prisoners, and I wrote it for an Amnesty International campaign in 2013. And in this campaign, they were using art to raise awareness about all prisoners who were unjustly imprisoned. They called them forgotten prisoners. And so I wrote this poem then, so that's 5 years ago now. Time flies. Okay. Before I do, assalamu alaikum to everybody who said anything. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for expressing your pride. Bonjour. I'm very well, alhamdulillah, sister. How are you? All right, I'll go on. They try to silence us, she said. They curtain their dirt, make certain the hurt is felt by us and not them. What could they be trying to achieve? They oppress those they should protect. They promote those that they should suspect. They've retarded systems but jump-started the spread of fiction that hinders their brothers. They see only their own prospects and fit their ideal world into a narrow vignette. I don't know if they have their heads caught in the clouds or buried in the ground. She sat behind iron. Shadows of the bars on her face, she whispers. I listen. Her voice talks of how we have been lied to. We are told to dream big, but to stay within the confines of these carefully designed lines, we shoot arrows into distances that we can't reach because it holds us back. It stiffens our limbs, kicks us in the shins, tells us we can't win, but no more. We will shed that layer of fear and leave it behind us. This, the most dangerous thing known to man, this is what has kept us from our destinies, left us powerless and begging on our knees. We will no longer be afraid, so they can no longer use our fears as chains. For our voices were given to us, and they are not for others to take or to silence. We will not be quiet despite their violence. We must remember those who died, those who lived, and those who still live, so that we would know what is possible. Freedom is possible. Freedom possible. She placed her head in her hands and began to whisper to herself now, as if to convince herself now, but there is so little that she can do now, and I know that it's up to me. For I am still free, but cannot continue to be knowing what I know, so I will use the only weapon I have, the one taken from her. My voice will be her voice, these words written by my soul, driven by her stories and heard by anyone who will listen. If we listen, we take their power. If we fight with our voices, then they have already lost. Listen, she's whispering, for anyone who will listen. Thank you. So in that poem, the way that I imagined it when I was writing it is that I had heard so much about prisoners from Eritrea, prisoners that were my own family members, people that have disappeared, that most of us have at least somebody in our families, even if it is distant, that has been affected by the illegal, or I guess I shouldn't say illegal, because if there's no laws, how can it be illegal? By this unjust imprisonment of our people, of anybody who speaks out about this injustice, about what we're going through. And so I imagined what it would be like if I was visiting somebody in prison, visiting somebody who had given up their life to fight for our struggle, somebody who was vocal and they had their rights taken away. And so I imagined that I was speaking to her, and she was trying to inspire me. She was trying to tell me, even though she's there and she's hopeless, or helpless, I should say, not hopeless, she was giving me hope. Somebody behind bars was giving me hope, telling me that I still need to do something. And so that's what I imagined with that. And considering that with this imprisonment, with the censorship that exists in Eritrea, what it is that they're trying to do is silence people. And so how we can be of help is to magnify their voices, to not be silent, to talk as much as we can, even if we feel like we're getting nowhere. We have to keep on talking, and because once we stop, we can't give up. We just can't. So I might talk a little bit about one of the events that happened recently, or not recently, but within the past year, and that was. Sorry, I thought that was a direction for me. And that was about the the unlawful imprisonment of Haji Musa, Allah yarhamhu. So last year when that was happening, when all of the events around Adia, the school, were happening, here in Australia there was a protest that many of you would have seen. And at that protest, it was incredible to see. I know that the Melbourne community often comes out and speaks out about issues that are happening. I've seen that there are many active people within the community over there, including many who are there, who are here on this chat, and I'm so grateful that you've come to listen. At that event, for me, it was the first thing I'd ever seen where I'd seen that many Eritreans come together for a cause and to actually do more. And that inspired me in so many ways. And since then, there have been young people all around. I can't speak for anywhere else in the world, but in Australia, coming out to speak on this issue and to also work, whether it's on campaigns or do more with their community to build solidarity amongst all the different Eritrean communities, so that when something does happen, we can come out and we're already together, we're already active. And so inshallah, we see more and more of this happening. But when I look back at that event and I looked at how inspiring it was to see so many of our people, I still get overwhelmed by it. There was a poem that I wrote for that event as well. And I'm just gonna get it up. It was one that I had been trying to write for a long time, but I've been afraid to write about Eritrea. I'm not going to lie, because as soon as you start speaking, you become a target. And it's one thing I've always been afraid about, that many people are afraid about, and that is making your family a target as well. So this was probably the first time at this event where I also publicly spoke, when there was a camera, and when there was a risk. Here, when I do it in my day-to-day, I'm usually not, it can be very difficult. Anyway, so I'll just find this poem for you. It was right here, but it's... Also look at your comment. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, brother, but I can't speak Arabic, so I won't be able to share anything in Arabic. But inshallah, if I come back in 2 years, I'll have my Arabic. I'm studying it, okay? Just slowly. Okay, here it is. Okay. When our people speak, we listen. When our people protest, we stand to amplify their cries. When my people walk, we walk for days over sun-scorched sands. Come, my people. Let's roar in the face of walls that have been closing in on us for too long. We do it for us. We do it for the bodies that lay beneath the sea between continents so opposite that we lose ourselves once we reach what we call safety, because home was not it. We do it for us. We do it for the livers and kidneys stolen from brethren on the walk to freedom, us, because we do it for the misplaced trust we wrapped our hands around so long ago, now coated in a rust so dense it crumbles between our fingers. We do it because there's nothing left to hold on to, because there have been too many front lines fallen for no reason, for it is treason to torture those who put you in power. There are no saviors in this game, just freedom fighters. Perhaps you were once a freedom fighter, and they too are freedom fighters. We too are freedom fighters. So why is it that you claim a title, that you pull and stretch until it gets to blanketing a nation that's been waiting to be free? We've been waiting to be free. My people look to a sky clouded by a history they are proud of, but at present, that does not reflect our efforts. My people plead. Plead that when they stop the bleeding, it won't be just so you can rip their wounds once again. My people pledge peace unless peace becomes oppression. Pressing on every pressure point, my people push against those walls. Ensure your patience does not make you complacent. My people, please. My people, shake the dust of a dying regime. Tell us how we can be with you, because when we left, we did not leave to let go. We left hoping we could speak from the outside, but it seems we've disconnected. But we will see a future in you. You are the home we wish to go back to. My people strong, my people strong, my people strong. My people sing songs of a struggle despite systematic silencing. My people will not waste their breath on whispers into the night. We will roar, we will throw our voices through the gates that have caged us for too long. My people run, my people will not stop until it's done. Thank you. So when I mentioned that that is one of the first poems, it's one of the first, when I say that I've been scared to write about Eritrea, I mean, I've told stories about us, about our past, about who we are, but to actually speak of something and be trying to rally people together and actively saying we need to do something, we have to talk, we have to yell, that was the first time, but I think it's the most honest that I've been when I write about Eritrea, because so many times I'm worried not just about, I'm worried about keeping the peace amongst our people and trying not to create more divisions in our communities. So I'm scared to speak honestly because of that. And then I'm also scared to speak honestly because of the fact that who could be listening? What will that mean for my family? So ever since then, I've been writing a lot more, but I won't be sharing any more of like my pieces that I'm hoping to be able to share with you in the future, especially with future campaigns. But I do want to share a poem that I wrote a few years ago. And yes, thank you so much, by the way. Yes, our people won't stop, because we've been doing it for 25 years, 26 years. And before that, we were doing it for a 30-year war. And before that, we were surviving through colonization. So we're not going to stop. We have all of the strength that we need. We have generations of practice. We won't stop until we finally get the freedom that we have been fighting for so long. And the generations that are coming, like my generation, the people after me, we're also learning from all of the elders, all of the people who've been active in working for something that is all of ours for so long. And it's only going to get better. We're only going to get stronger. And inshallah, we'll see victory. We'll see victory soon. So this next poem that I'm going to share is one that I wrote that was a little more about what it's like in the diaspora, and trying to find out more about where we're from and trying to connect a little bit more. So this poem doesn't actually have a name. So I often just call it by the first line, which is that my profile is like my father's. Okay. They tell me my profile is like my father's. The chiseled nose and the jaw, holding glories from the city in the clouds, to the home of ancient remnants and colonial covenants. We are generations raised on crimson dust between highlands and Red Sea, but it seems that now all we have are memories. I shed a tear every time an auntie asks, "Do you remember me?" And I say, "No." So every time I remind my baby sister where she's from and she says, "So?" For every phone call that starts with, "Uwit afiki, you lost touch." And I say, I did not lose touch, when really, Efie, I lost touch. And it always ends with Aitatatfi, don't lose touch. And I say, I will not lose touch, when really, Kitafitya, I'm probably going to lose touch. Not because I want to, but because I'm at a loss for words. See, they get stuck in my throat and refuse to leave my tongue, and instead come out in tears when I think about all those years that I could have captured in my own hands and relived before each conversation, then maybe we would actually have something to talk about. The moments are few, but so precious, like sitting on the floor with my grandmother in a house in Addis Ababa, a home belonging to neither of us, but the only one where we can meet. So together we weave laka, like I weave between cultures and countries, presence and absence. She taught me to craft my own mashrafat as I would my life, with patience, precision, the wit of a woman. I learned from her to wear my crown, crowns of cloth passed down from mother to mother to mother in varying colors, cloth that once was just cloth now holds truth, strings cut, love costs, cloth that represents roads and rivers that run west of red waters, lives lost crossing borders because those amongst us fought us, made killers of our sons and daughters when they taught us that there is no longer justice here, just us and power hoarders. But I imagine speaking to my late grandfather, Aboy Allah yarhamu. I can imagine him standing there telling me, who told you to look at your feet? You come from a long line of generations that preserve dignity despite occupation. You pick your head up, you hold your head high because we are not short of heroes. Our heroes wore Congo on their feet. They brushed teeth with soft wood. They took shoes off when they entered the home. They did not look like Victorian Red Cross recipients. They were not knighted, but unappreciated. See, they worked 4 to 12, 6 to 2. Maybe they don't know the 9 to 5. Maybe they worked while we slept, and maybe they were better than the suits and ties because we saw their double lives. So when they tell me that my profile is like my father's, I say to them that that is my greatest blessing. Thank you, Jazakallah khair. So that poem was very much inspired by my father. But what I would like to say in conclusion to that is about how important it is that we share with, I guess I should say, how important it is that we don't lose the communication between the generations, because that's the only way that this fight is going to go on. Because we have people who have now been in prison for over 20 years. We have thousands of people fleeing the country, and justice will not happen unless we keep on moving. But we can't keep on moving if we lose a whole generation of youngsters. And I'm lucky that I had a father who told me all of the stories, who educated me, who showed me what was going on. We need to make sure that goes through with the next generation. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the people who've already been raising the profile of Eritrea and of the struggle that we've been going through art and through many other ways, through other forms of expression, through journalism, through organizing communities. This has been going on for so long, and I'm just adding to the conversation, and it's a privilege. And I can't even believe that I'm able to speak to an international audience of Eritreans. Think of how incredible we are for having something like this. Think of how incredible the organizers of this page and so many other pages that create live broadcasts, people who give their entire lives, who are always online trying to tell us what's going on, people from, whether it's Radio Erena or Hona or Awati.com or everything else. People are working toward this, and we need to support, we need to contribute, we need to share. And I think that that's all I really have to share today. But I'm willing to, I should have a quick read of the comments, and also let me know if you've got any comments or questions that you would like to share. Absolutely. So there's a comment here. Our sub-arbitrary imprisonment, arrest and harsh punishment, torture are the whim of security force commanders without trial or appeal. That's it, we often, we're here and living in Australia, like most of us living in the diaspora, in a country where we have the right to speak up, and we can see what can happen when laws are enforced. And we know that we want that for our people. We know that we want that kind of justice. And I think that we have the wisdom and the knowledge. We have so many people who have recently left Eritrea, who were so active within this political regime, but also have all this knowledge about what could be better. And so we can use that, you know, there's so much intelligence. Half the country is leaving, which means not all of them, but so many of the great brains from within the country who know what to do are outside now. So we can work with them, we can talk to them, and we can, inshallah, like create something new and create more opportunities. So I hope that that's true. I hope that that happens. Inshallah, freedom for all of our prisoners. I hope that there is an event happening in April in Adelaide, in my city at the moment, but I know that there is one happening in Melbourne, in Australia, and I know that there are some happening all over the world. I hope that we can all go to them. And inshallah, next year, if you hear from us in Adelaide, I hope we'll be having something. We just need a bit more time to get everybody together. All right, I think that's all. Inshallah, we keep on hoping, we keep on moving, we keep on working, and this is not even the beginning. It's not close to the end. It's a long struggle, but we have the strength for it. We really, really do have the strength for it. So I'd like to pay my respects to all of the prisoners that are currently in custody, all the ones that have been in custody, to the prisoners of conscience, and to all of the families of people all the people who've lost family members or who are still waiting for family members, because that is the hardest thing, still waiting for family members. So please stay strong. Remember, you have a whole community behind you from all over the world, and inshallah, we'll all see justice in our country, and inshallah, we'll all be able to return under good circumstances and see a positive, bright future where all the generations after us can know the country and can be safe from that fear that so many people have had to live with. Inshallah. All right. And thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Take care. Assalamu.